what I was referring
Jonah Hill was using therapy speak to control his girlfriend, Sarah, his now ex.
No, he wasn't. Here's one of the messages that Jonah sent to his now ex-girlfriend, Sarah Brady. Pause to read if you'd like, but it's essentially just a list of his boundaries that are non-negotiable, along with a caveat at the end saying, if you don't agree to this, if you don't like this, you can leave at any time and I will support your decision to do that. No hard feelings. I wish you the best. That sounds like a pretty reasonable and respectful way to convey your boundaries to someone in whom you have a romantic interest without being controlling or manipulative. He left the door wide open for her to make her own decision. For those of you going after Jonah Hill for this, what do you believe was the alternative for him? Just to acquiesce and simply submit himself to being disrespected on a daily basis by a woman who wanted to hang out with other dudes and post pictures of her ass on Instagram? This creator also said that the way in which Jonah formulated his message to his now ex-girlfriend left no room for her to challenge his boundaries. Well, hold on a second, because I thought that challenging someone's boundaries was abusive and manipulative. Or is that just another thing that only applies to men and not women? I'm hearing the term weaponized boundaries being thrown around a lot with regard to Jonah Hill, which was just manufactured in order to shame men into submission so that they can be controlled and so that women could be shielded from accountability. Messages like this only convey to men that they should just dispense with whatever delusions of boundaries they want to set in order to maintain their self-respect and subject themselves to whatever disrespect and humiliation their women feel like imparting on them. And if you have concerns about your woman's promiscuous or validation-seeking behavior, you should keep those to yourself. Because if you feel any kind of way about her behavior, you're just a misogynist.
Welcome to our podcast. You're listening to Crash by Ixon at www.ixonmusic.com. You were frozen, Ashley. You were so still.
I was waiting for Jody to be like, welcome to Why Complain When You Can Whine.
I wanted to say, don't let your misogyny show so much when you're filming a video trying to say that men aren't misogynistic. Because it just oozes out of this video so much.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I was going to say. But now I'm going to say... Welcome to Why Complain When You Can Whine, making sense of the senseless. 3 professional women attempting to make sense of toxic nonsense while drinking wine. I'm Dr. Jody Larman, licensed clinical psychologist in the state of California. Therefore, everything that we discuss on this podcast is for psychoeducation and entertainment purposes only. And tonight, I am wearing these red wine bottle earrings that my sister and my niece got me. Because again, anything wine, my family, I'm the easiest one to buy for. And they were kind of sad that I didn't share this before. So for my birthday, for the podcast, they had made this little Dr. Larman and the wine bottles on top. And my sister said, did you show them in your podcast? And I'm like, no. And she goes, oh. I said, okay, I will. So I did. So they'll keep giving me wine stuff. That's why I did it. Anyway.
Jody, I feel like really quickly, you sent me and Heather the funniest fucking text messages this week on what you were gonna say about us. Those words. Oh, what was it about a wine lover, not an alcoholic? And the actual professional real words to make us sound really
yes. Proper. Let me find those because I will do the beginning again. So it is Why Complain When You Can Whine. 3 professional Oneophiles who are hang on, who are going to persiflage toxic nonsense while drinking wine. Now people are going, what the fuck? Okay, so persiflage, persiflage, and I would have gone to my translator or whatever to my pronunciation to get this better, but it is frivolous, lighthearted talk, a useful word because it makes you sound like Oscar Wilde and lets you avoid ever describing your witty repartee as banter. So we are persiflaging.
All right.
And oneophile is a lover of wine, not to be confused with alcoholic.
because we've been getting comments like that.
Yes, we have.
Because you can't just be a woman drinking a couple glasses of wine with your girlfriends and talking shit about
Right.
toxic shit. Now we're alcoholics.
But we're not.
But we're not.
We're oneophiles who are persiflage.
Doing something.
We're
That
doing
word's hard to say
something.
sober.
Instead of whippy repartee. I have not even drank anything yet. We are persiflaging. I'm gonna figure out how to say that fucking word, and then I'm gonna get it. And I'm gonna surprise you all by our next introduction is gonna have it in there. Anyways, so I actually bought this wine because I love the name of it. It is a red blend called Sheep Thrills.
Oh, the
My
the
sheep
label's
thrills.
so cute.
And it's a little sheep's parachuting, a little fat sheep with a glass of wine. It is a red blend, and I am just have a really pretty summery fuchsia glass tonight.
I relate to that sheep.
In more than one way, I relate to the sheep. I will not say what way, as we persiflage.
Oneophiles.
Yes. Heather.
Hi, I'm Heather. I'm a licensed counselor and domestic violence survivor. I gotta work in the morning, y'all. So I'm doing high noon instead of Truly today. It's like a vodka drink and it's passion fruit flavored. So it's delicious. Highly recommend. It's only 4.5% alcohol at 100 calories.
All right. Get it, girl. Hello, everyone. I'm Ashley Page, single mom, domestic violence survivor, and founder of Loving Single and the Hot Mess Society. Tonight, I, along with Heather, am drinking straight up from the can. Last week I had just like a regular margarita flavor, but this week of the Docktails is a strawberry basil daiquiri.
Oh.
It's not like Heather's though. I mean, we're just going all in. It's 9.5% alcohol. It's not 100 calories. It's like it's not. So
It's not.
We're not there yet.
And it is persiflaging. I just listened to it. Persiflage.
Okay.
It's even better. We're persiflaging.
Well, we step into our oneophile identities.
Yes. So
Love
from
it.
now on, we are persiflaging oniphiles.
I support this.
Cheers.
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 And as I was pouring, I totally missed my glass too.
At least you didn't dribble all over yourself like that one day I did.
I've shown everyone that too.
Ah,
That was the best part of that episode.
I wanted to make a boomerang of it,
you should have.
but yeah. One day I might, if I can figure out how to do it.
So everybody heard that Jonah Hill sent some coercive control text messages to his now ex-girlfriend, and it's been all over everywhere. So the video that we showed at the beginning was whoever this guy is on TikTok, nobody important, obviously. It's always like just like a mad, stout, chunky white dude with attitude. That
They're typically short too. Sorry.
right,
Oh,
like 5'8", 5'6" to 5'8", something like that. That just
Chunky
make
fingers.
idiots out of themselves on social media. But we saw that video, and Ashley did, and we decided we wanted to comment on it, and then we wanted to talk about it today. So here we are.
sorry, Heather. I like pump faked you. I was gonna say, I think like it would be good. We did one episode that unfortunately we weren't able to air, where we kind of broke it down bit by bit on what was taking place. Because if you just listen to that video in all of its awful, disgusting, misogynistic glory, it's easy to miss a lot of the key tactics of manipulation that he's utilizing in order to further his message and his agenda, while also using like just pseudo tactics as far as like asking questions, but then like furthering his narrative. And I know personally for all three of us, we commented on that video. And even though he asked an open-ended question, we received a lot of really, really disrespectful feedback from him. So like, I mean, I don't know what you ladies feel about that, but like if we could break it down bit by bit and then discuss each section, I think that might be helpful for our listeners to kind of see exactly the tactics that are being utilized in this, alongside with what happened and took place with Jonah Hill and how he utilized psychology talk in order to further his narrative as well, which ironically is exactly what this man did.
Do you want me to play a little bit and stop it?
Yeah, if we could do like kind of like what we did in that one super awesome episode.
Okay, let me know when you want me to stop it.
To control his girlfriend Sarah, his now ex.
Why is it not moving?
No, he wasn't. Here's one of the messages that Jonah sent to his now ex-girlfriend, Sarah Brady. Pause to read if you'd like, but it's essentially just a list of his boundaries that are non-negotiable, along with a caveat at the end saying, if you don't agree to this, if you don't like this, you can leave at any time and I will support your decision to do that. No hard feelings. I wish you the best. That sounds like a pretty reasonable and respectful way to convey your boundaries to someone in whom you have a romantic interest without being controlling or
let's start there, because I think if we could, because I have it pulled up on my screen. So let's talk about first what Jonah Hill's quote unquote boundaries were. He said, plain and simple, if you need surfing with men, boundaryless, inappropriate friendships with men, to model, to post pictures of yourself in a bathing suit, to post sexual pictures, friendships with women who are in unstable places and from your wild recent past beyond getting a lunch or coffee or something respectful, then I am not the right partner for you. If these things bring you to a place of happiness, I support it and there will be no hard feelings. These are my boundaries for romantic partnership, my boundaries with you based on the ways these actions have hurt our trust. There's so much fucked up shit in that alone. Like, who wants to start?
I mean, everybody saw it. And I think too, like, Therapy Jeff is the video that guy stitched. And he, if you're not following him on TikTok, everybody should follow Therapy Jeff. He is an amazing person and incredibly intelligent and can deconstruct sort of the therapy speak that this guy thinks he knows something about. And he does so in a really nice way in the video that guy thought he had the ability to stitch and sound intelligent. But so that piece of it is one. And then where was I going to go next? Damn it. I'm tired. You guys go.
You know, what got me just listening to this is from your recent past. Now, here's the thing. If you meet somebody, and I'm going to give a couple of examples. You meet somebody that is an already established, she's a surfer. She had an Instagram. She had this account and had her life before him. I think that's part of what drew him to her was her Instagram. He didn't meet her totally innocently, bumped into that, walking down the street and had no idea who she was or what her pictures on Instagram were. I highly, highly, highly doubt that. If I'm wrong, somebody tell me. But he knew her Instagram, he knew her past. And to meet somebody knowing who they are and what they are, and thinking that once you're with me, that shit don't play no more. I'm sorry, but what the fuck is that?
Yeah. Well, and it wasn't even that it was her past, it was her present. Like,
well, he said recent past. To me, that means before you and I started to see each other.
Well, and it was very but it was also the way that it was described. So like plain and simple. Now, that's not
That's an
an
ultimatum.
invitation. Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. It's not an invitation for conversation. It is an ultimatum. This my way or the highway.
Yeah.
And then he goes off and lists these boundaries. If you need, which is like saying essentially pick me or pick this.
Yeah.
That's what that means. And then he frames her life and weaponizes it in a way that actually makes her look like it's almost like he's like slut shaming her.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
very much so. It's like if she needs this, but like that's not really the case. The case is that she's a professional surfer, a model, that part of her job, she surfs with men, she wears bikinis, she's sponsored by these companies, these bathing suit companies, these surfing companies. So she takes photos in surfwear, and then she has friends.
Well, she even said that one of the pictures he was complaining about, he loved it when they first met. That was the picture he was drawn to. And then that was the picture he wanted her to take off.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so like to post pictures of yourself in a bathing suit, but he prefaced that in a form of if you need this, not if this is not understanding you're a professional surfer. This is part of your contract. Like it was very much weaponized against her, like I said. And then in the last part of it, he says to her, then I'm not the right partner for you, even though he knew all of this shit about her initially. If these things bring you, and this is what I hated, if these things bring you to a place of happiness, I support it and there will be no hard feelings. No, actually, you don't support
it.
You don't respect it. You're using like fucking psycho talk, like psychology talk, in order to position yourself as the victim when the shit blows up and like the good guy, and like setting that those are not fucking boundaries. That's control.
And what I didn't like is these friendships with women who are, what is that? It's cut off on my side, who are something in unstable places.
Yeah, who are in unstable places and from your wild recent past.
Like, I'm sorry, my friends who are in unstable places, like who the fuck are you?
And then calls her wild.
Well,
and then
if her friends are unstable, obviously that meant that she was unstable with her wild past.
Yeah. And then says the only thing that you can do with them is get lunch or have coffee. Those are not fucking boundaries. And like
being respectful.
Yes.
Yeah.
Go to tea.
That it's coercive control at its finest. That's exactly what it is.
But it's
trying to make her feel bad about herself. It's about taking away her individuality and what she does and her friends and her everything, and making it so that is a problem. And that's not what boundaries are supposed to do. That's not even what boundaries are. That's control. It's coercive control. It makes her feel shame and guilt about who she is and what she does in an attempt to make her stop doing all those things to be with him.
And boundaries, people, because I go through this all the time. We make boundaries for us.
Yes.
Meaning I will not pick up your dog to go poop because you call me every 5 minutes and I have to work. You do it yourself. That's a boundary for me. Not you're a bad dog owner, so you either take the dog to the shelter or rehome it,
or we're not friends anymore.
Yeah, that's an ultimatum. What he's giving is not boundaries. What he is presenting are not boundaries. We present boundaries for ourselves. Like I would, and if he was, let's just say that was a boundary, which is not. Respectfully would be, it really does bother me now when I see your bathing suit pictures.
That's what, but he could have come at it like, it makes me feel this way when you do this, and that at least opens the door to have a conversation about it. Right. But he didn't leave her any room for a conversation. It was totally an ultimatum.
Yeah. So, that's not a boundary.
That's not a boundary. That's just a rigid, controlling statement. And so that we should watch the next section.
Well, I want to say this one part first off of what you said, Heather, is that you don't get to be in pursuit of a woman and like that she's wearing a bathing suit and like that she's having suggestive quote unquote photos based on your perception. And that turns you on and draws you into a place of pursuing her. And then once you've achieved your prize, now you get to tell her, you don't get to do this anymore. That's the shit that bothers me.
He's so insecure. That's what it is. Like, at least say you're fucking insecure, right? Maybe we could talk about that, but don't come at me with this, like,
how do you
dumbass
think it would have been
bullshit.
if she would have said, I don't want you doing movies anymore?
I don't
Right.
want you doing, you're not allowed to do kissing scenes.
That's not a boundary.
That is an excellent point of her being like, okay, fine, I'll stop that. But as far as your acting goes, no more kissing scenes,
No
no
more
more
with
like
women.
no more
No women.
innuendos that you're having sex with them, like no flirtation.
I don't
No
want
Hollywood
you in any
parties.
scenes with women
Yeah,
that are flirty or anything. Women can be in the background, but I want you only in scenes with men.
the bullshit double standards. All
Oh
right.
my
let's
God,
continue.
everybody would know about that and what a horrible person she is. Okay. Where's my... Thank you.
Manipulative. He left the door wide open for her to make her own decision. For those of you going after Jonah Hill for this, what do you believe was the alternative for him? Just to acquiesce and simply submit himself to being disrespected on a daily basis by a woman who wanted to hang out with other dudes and post pictures of her ass on Instagram? This creator also said that the way...
Sorry, I do have to say something. She's disrespecting him because she's doing everything that she did before she met him.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And he
But
knew that she was doing all of this.
But however, he did leave, like this officer Nate said, he did leave the door wide open
For her to leave.
for her to leave. Just like I said, my way or the highway.
Yep.
Yeah.
in which Jonah formulated his message to his now ex-girlfriend left no room for her to challenge his boundaries. Well, hold on a second, because I thought that challenging someone's boundaries was abusive and manipulative. Or is that
Those are not boundaries, asshole. Sorry.
just another thing that only applies to men and not women? I'm hearing the term weaponized boundaries being thrown around a lot with regard to Jonah Hill, which was just manufactured in order to shame men into submission so that they can be controlled and so that women could be shielded from accountability. Messages.
Whoa. Whoa.
Oh
That
man,
whole-
I can't believe. I hope he's not a cop, because if he's responding to domestic violence calls, he doesn't know what the fuck he's doing.
No, and he's part of the-
Shielding women from accountability. Can someone
Accountability for
explain
what?
that
Living
to
his life?
me? Like, what accountability is he? What the fuck? Where? Explain that to me. What he's trying to say.
To
Yeah,
me, all I heard was a bunch of fucking illiterate fucking word salad.
misogynistic.
Big fucking psychology words he utilized that were all thrown together. I know someone who does that, but like throws them all together and like it sounds intelligent, but it actually means jack shit. Like it didn't, you don't mean, like you actually, do you even know what you're saying? Can you explain that to me and clarify to me without your big words?
And I hear the words weaponizing boundaries thrown around. Why don't you define what weaponizing boundaries means? Because please explain what weaponizing boundaries means.
Yeah.
And women accountability. Oof, this. Okay, hang on.
It gets even better. There's a good one coming up. I can't wait for.
Only convey to men that they should just dispense with whatever delusions of boundaries they want to set in order to maintain their self-respect and subject themselves to whatever disrespect and humiliation their women feel like imparting on them. And if you have concerns about your woman's promiscuous or validation seeking behavior, you should keep those to yourself. Because if you feel any kind of way about her behavior, you're just a misogynist.
Jonah,
I have so much I want to fucking say, but I'm gonna let Heather start.
if they're women, if they have something to say about your woman, they're woman. So the fact that he even uses ownership of women language is just like screaming misogynist. And totally, if he's in a relationship, I hope the woman is okay, because he's absolutely abusing her and using these same coercive controlled tactics with her, guaranteed.
I loved his validation seeking behaviors.
Mm-hmm. And he said the promiscuous.
Her job. She's doing her fucking job, dude.
But he placed it on women in a generalized form.
Yep.
He said your woman's, so basically your sheep's.
Mhm.
Like it was very much like completely removed a woman's autonomy
Mhm.
and her sexuality and her femininity, but it was mostly a possessive statement of your woman's promiscuous behavior
And validation seeking behavior. So if you're doing anything, if you're in a relationship, women, and you're posting selfies and other pictures on your social media, if you're even on your social media, now we're in validation seeking behaviors, because you shouldn't need to have any validation seeking behaviors, because your man should be giving you all of those anyways. You should be getting all the validation you need from your man, who's giving you ultimatums that you better not be doing anything that he doesn't like.
This guy's such an insecure little bitch. Seriously.
he you know what, his ego like is so inflated that like it quite literally like makes me feel like there's not enough oxygen in the air.
Yeah.
For real though.
He's
And
taking up a lot of air, for sure.
he's utilizing a lot of oxygen. But like, you know, he's also utilizing a lot of big words that he probably can't even spell. And like, if I asked him to dumb it down, he wouldn't be able to. But not to mention that we went, all three of us went into the comment section, and not surprisingly, most of the men, not all of them, there were several men that were in there being like, yo, bro, like you are backwards.
Mhm.
But a majority of the men in his comment section were like yeehaw, and like you tell them, and like this and that and the other thing. But anytime there was a woman in there that was disagreeing, although he prefaced the entire video by asking our opinions,
Mhm.
we got comments like, if I made a comment, he goes, yawn.
Mhm.
Can you imagine being in a disagreement with a man like that? Like, actually, I can. We've all been there. But like, when you like state your opinion and he's like, yawn.
Yeah.
And what did he say to Heather? Shut
He
up and
said
sit
you're
down?
too loud. Sit down.
Sit down. Yeah. As if like, which reminds me very much of my ex would be like, shut up, bitch.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Thing.
I was like, yeah, you clearly have no respect for women. Just say you hate women. It's fine.
If I'm going to say anything, if you're going to say anything in my comment section that's going to make me look stupid, you better shut the fuck up and stay out of my comment section. Or like he did to me, he just blocked me.
Yeah. Yeah.
I emasculated him and said, hey, it's okay to be afraid of strong professional women. Just admit it. It's less emasculating if you admit it than if you don't. And he blocked me.
But this is, I think, like a really important conversation for like women to have, because the reality is that a lot of us deal with things like this, where the thing that attracted the man to us becomes the thing that they try and stomp out and control and then ridicule us over once we get into a relationship with them. Now, when they're trying to win our hearts and win our commitment, they get all riled up and turned on. But the moment that they're like, you're mine, it
Yep.
becomes shut up and sit down. You're too loud.
It's like the lady on the street and the freak in the bed. I want you to present yourself this way around me. But when it's just the two of us, you can be a whore, you can be a slut, you can be whatever. If you're pleasing me in bed,
Yeah.
but don't you dare take any of that outside of this, right?
It's the virgin whore paradox.
Yeah.
Old as it gets, old as time.
It's kind of scary. I mean, having a son and he's 21 and I see all these things going on. It's like, I do not want my son to be one of those men ever. So we had a long talk about this. And I said, do not ever, when you meet someone and you know who they are, and that's why you pick them, then you don't go about trying to change them when you're together, because you pick them. Not when I say pick them, I don't mean you. I know that's a bad word to use, like I picked you, but when you see someone and you want to get to know them and you know their background and you know who they are and you choose to get to know them further and you choose to spend time together, you all both do, neither one of you, the woman or the man, should be trying to change the other person. And especially, like, I really loved you in that slutty outfit when we first met. I don't ever want to see that again.
Right.
Because if
That's
it
coercive
attracted
control.
me,
It's abuse. It's an abuse.
yeah, and if it attracted me, it's attracting everybody else too. And that was okay, but not now that you're mine. And all you're doing is seeking validation and being promiscuous.
Mhm.
AKA you have small dick syndrome and you feel insecure because you're afraid that now that she's yours and she's your woman and she's your female and she belongs to you, that you want to dumb her down and cover her up so that other men don't
Can't
threaten
steal her from you.
Yeah, so that other men don't threaten your prized possession.
Right.
Is what you're actually communicating to us.
Right. He's objectifying women, dehumanizing them, claiming ownership of them, and then saying, "Oh, if we have rules, if we want to have our boundaries, then we're just misogynist to all women, and we're all condescending bitches who."
It just felt the whole thing was very much Darvo. Because she posted, and I know I sent them to you guys, she posted all these text threads of their communication together. It was so much Darvo. Like she would it was the denial of it. And even what he did to her and like the way that he prefaced the conversation and the way that he utilized therapy Jeff's like, you've got to really be a cocky, arrogant prick to utilize a therapist's education, expertise, and knowledge and step on a platform. Yeah, a relationship expert, and think that even though you've never gone to college for therapy, you don't have a therapist license, you don't have the master's degree in it, you're just what's his name? Officer Dickhead, Officer Richard. You think that you can come onto a platform and tell the whole fucking world that this therapist
is wrong.
Doesn't know what the fuck he's talking about, and all of these women shut up and sit down. You're too loud. But we're the ones with the problems. I'm okay.
Right. Okay.
It's Officer Nate is his name. Officer Nate.
Can we find Therapy Jeff's video and play it for people so you can like get an idea of the audacity of this motherfucker to even stitch it? Because it was such a good video. Therapy Jeff goes about everything in such a respectful way and leaves, I believe, Jonah Hill's dignity intact doing so. And that's, to me, that's the sign of a good relationship therapist. And
single guy.
You can call out someone's bullshit while leaving their dignity intact. And that's what Therapy Jeff did. And then this guy comes along with his, he's wrong. It's just like, really?
It's kind of like, again, it's kind of like when a man asks you what your feelings are about something. And then when you're in the middle of telling him how his behavior made you feel, he goes, shut up, you're wrong. You didn't feel that way. You felt this way.
Yeah.
It's kind of like that.
Very gaslighty, isn't it?
Very.
Very fucking gaslighty.
That the epitome of gaslighting. No, you know, that I never said that. What I said was not what you're saying. And I don't know why you're feeling like that. I have Therapy Jeff's video if you want to play it.
Yeah, let's watch it. It's really, I think it's well done. He did a good job. He got like 100,000 likes on it.
In therapy speak to control his girlfriend Sarah, his now ex-girlfriend. And it's important that we go over this misuse of therapy language, which is kind of a thing these days, and how it can be super problematic as it masks controlling behavior under a commonly accepted positive concept, in this case, boundaries, making it harder for the person on the receiving end, Sarah, to challenge it. Okay, so Jonah is basically telling his professional surfer girlfriend, I am not going to be with you if you surf with men, have boundaryless friendships with men, model, post pictures in a bathing suit, or post suggestive pictures, and are friends with women who are in unstable places. He goes on to say that these are my boundaries for a romantic relationship. Jonah's use of the term boundaries in this message is a misuse of the concept. A boundary is a healthy limit a person sets for themselves to protect their well-being and integrity. It is a rule or guideline that one creates to identify reasonable, safe, and permissible ways for others to behave towards them and how they'll respond when someone passes those limits. However, in the message Jonah sent to Sarah, he is not setting boundaries that protect his emotional well-being. Instead, he is dictating what behaviors and friendships Sarah is permitted to have. He's essentially instructing Sarah on who she can be friends with, what she can do professionally, and how she can show up online. This is not an example of healthy boundary setting. Instead, it reflects an attempt at control. It demonstrates a lack of respect for Sarah's autonomy and individuality. Jonah's message is more about restricting Sarah's behavior to suit his comfort levels and insecurities, rather than expressing his feelings or needs in a healthy manner. A healthier and less manipulative approach might be for Jonah to express how Sarah's actions make him feel without using ultimatums about what she should or should not do. Side note, I bet he loved how hot Sarah looked in her posts before they got together. So this is a bunch of bullshit. Anyway, Jonah needs to consider Sarah's needs and feelings and not just focus on his own, which it seems like he's selfishly doing. One last thing, Jonah Hill made a lovely documentary about therapy, and it's a shame to see him weaponizing what he learned to attempt to manipulate his girlfriend. That sucks.
That's where he got the word weaponizing.
Yeah,
He
and
heard it.
that he manipulated the way he used weaponized.
Yes.
He also manipulated and twisted the way he said it makes it hard for her to challenge the boundary. So he twisted what he said. He over exaggerated on it and then weaponized that as he was talking about someone weaponizing things, which is what I was saying about fucking word salad. Like fucking Officer Richard likes to utilize in everything he does.
You know, I had not seen Therapy Jeff's video. Had you, Ashley?
Yeah.
I hadn't seen it until now. And it's funny because I didn't know where this guy got the words weaponizing and all of that. And it's like, oh my God, it is hysterical. I mean, it's not hysterical in the sense of it, but just the fact that it's like, dude, you didn't even.
He didn't even listen.
I was like, you need to go back and watch the video again, because clearly you're not understanding what's being taught to you here, because Jeff does a really good job of just like laying out the difference between boundaries and control, the difference between letting someone, have their autonomy versus trying to stop them from doing what they do, and how that's not appropriate. A better way that he could have approached it, instead of trying to go the manipulative, coercive way, he could have approached it by owning his feelings, owning his insecurities,
everything,
and having a conversation. And so it's like, go back and listen to that. Like there was nothing about that was misandry. There was nothing about that was wrong or
And this guy, what's really interesting about this guy is this shows what kind of a person he is by and how much anger and hatred towards women he has by using women being promiscuous and
Showing her ass
validation
on
seeking.
Instagram.
Yeah, and
Heather.
all of us are if we say anything, we're misogynist. Something tells me that he's been called that more than once.
I'm sure he has.
I mean, listen, the only thing that Officer Richard Cranium said.
Richard Cranium. They just get better.
all that he really said was a whole lot of freaking baloney that was framed in the same mindset and perspective that Jonah Hill utilized when he went to therapy, which is he ingested information at the level of his understanding, which is toxic, manipulative, coercive, and abusive. So it makes perfect sense that a man that's at such a low level of understanding when it comes to psychology, boundaries, healthy relationships, communication, would interpret what Jeff said and would spew out all this word vomit that only makes sense to other men who think the same way he does. And like I say that all the time to people, people will only hear you at the level of their understanding. So if something just goes whoop, it's because they're incapable of hearing that because their perspective is often like broken and toxic and tainted, and they're not going to hear what you say. So don't waste your fucking time. At the end of the day, he's nothing more than a Richard Cranium.
Well,
What it is.
also, there's a lot of projection in the stuff that he was saying. I mean, you can tell that the guy, like you said, probably has little short dick syndrome and all of that. He's probably about 5'6". Nothing wrong with short guys. In general, I prefer 6 feet and over, but that's just me. However, he's probably not the best with the ladies and blames it on the women instead of himself. He's probably been called a misogynist and has to turn it on women not taking accountability. So a lot of this, I think it doesn't even matter what therapy Jeff said. He was going to turn it into his own projection and his own feelings and his own insecurities and his own need for validation that he probably doesn't get from women.
Probably not.
Well, you're going to have a really hard time finding validation from women when that's your perspective.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like, and like, here's the thing for our listeners. Like, here's the thing. I can call him Richard Cranium and like, I can call him Officer Richard and like, we can make short jokes and it's all fun and games because that's why we have this fucking podcast. But like,
and we're
yes, we know what you're saying, Dr. Jody. But the truth of it is like at the end of the day, like me personally, I don't have a whole lot of fucking tolerance for men who aren't trying to listen and learn from women, but are rather telling us how to be women and how to as women and how to behave as women when they have an extra appendage and have no point of fucking reference except from their misogynistic one that is nothing more than controlling and dictating the way that we live our lives in order to serve them and cater to their insecurities and their projections on how they utilize and view the world. To me, that's why I get fucking angry because you're not even going to sit long enough to hear what I have to say. And you're also not going to utilize your empathy muscle. So why the fuck do I have to give you respect when you can't even give us the common courtesy to try and see our perspectives, but you think that you have the audacity to speak from our perspectives? It's just horse shit. So I don't have a
Right.
lot of respect for Officer Richard. I
I
don't.
don't either. And if we are having our perspective and we're sharing, like, no, you've got this, this is not what boundaries are, you're not watching, you're not listening, then to be told to shut up, because it's like, and sit down, it's like, yeah, okay, that's what I expected from somebody, is when women actually do use their voice, that you don't want to hear it. And typical. So it pisses me off too.
It's really scary in a sense when you think about somebody, and it's not just this guy, there's a lot of men that are like, women have no voice. And how dare you try to have a voice
Or a body.
shut up, sit down, yawn when you're trying to make a point. I'm not listening, I'm yawning. It's like, what is it that is so scary about us? What frightens you that much? And that's one of the comments that I made, is that just admit that you're scared of strong, professional, independent women.
Mhm.
Why are you? And any man who's like that is like, it's out of fear, and they're going to say, I'm not afraid. Well, then you're misogynistic, and that comes from fear.
Yep.
There's
All
some
that
reason
anger
that
and hatred comes from fear.
yeah. And so what are you afraid of? Are you afraid that a woman is smarter than you? That
Yes.
a woman has more common sense than you?
Yep.
That we are wiser than you? And
Yep.
just overall more
And
intelligent?
then we don't need you.
Yes,
We
and
don't
emotional
actually need
intelligence.
you.
Girl, that's the boom right there.
Yeah.
We don't actually need you. We've got this without you.
And for how dare you?
Dr. Jody, and this usually stems from where, when you, based on your experience, and Heather too, where does, when you talk to men like this, based on your experience from dealing with Dr. Jody prison, Heather, like jail, I've had a margarita, so fuck, my brain and my mouth are not working cohesively. Where do you most commonly see these issues stem from?
Heather?
The issue of just hatred towards women and like a general hostility towards women. I mean, I see that at work all the time because I work in criminal justice. So I see it in all my DV offenders. I see it
But
in
where do you
sex
think
abuse.
it came? Like, I know where I've seen a lot of it in prison, when I have had guys with a lot of issues towards women. They didn't have their dads
Mm.
around. They were raised by a single mom who was doing their best most of the time. And they just walked all over that woman and had no respect for that woman. And a lot of them blamed. I was in a group one time where all of the guys in there were like, if you come from a single mom, you're going to end up in prison.
Mhm.
Anyone in prison, single mom. And I was sitting in my head thinking, I'm a single mom, not going to happen to my son. It's not a hard, and I would tell them it's not hard and fast. Your mom was probably working 2, 3, maybe 4 jobs, because a lot of these guys, their dad was not in the picture, or their dad was a gigantic asshole. Not every single one of them, but a lot of them.
Some of them have the other, some of mine too have had issues with mom not being around.
What do you think, Ashley? What do you?
I know that in like all of the toxic men, like very misogynistic men that I've seen, it was very much, and like, I want to be careful and respectful of what I say because I'm a single mother. And I know Jody, you are, and a lot of our listeners are. So when I say what I'm about to say, I'm not blaming single mothers whatsoever. I'm saying based on my experience, this is what I've seen. And I'm not blaming moms either. But a majority of what I've seen is large in part due to the things that they've experienced growing up with their mothers. Now, with that being said, I also want to like preface it by saying, like, there are a lot of very successful, very healthy people that come out of single mother situations, but it's not the single mother that I'm actually want to highlight. It's the absence or the behavior of the father that's in that situation. So like, for example, with my ex, like his mother was around, but she was extremely toxic. And his dad was an alcoholic. So because he saw his mom, who was very narcissistic and very toxic, he saw her go from man to man to man to man to man after she left his dad. Every woman that came after him was a whore, was like a slut. She was promiscuous. And so that his whole identity and concept of a woman was that she runs, that she cheats, that she lies, that she steals. And so that's how he treated every single woman after his mother. And I know, like that's just what I saw specifically was a lot of men in these situations, they develop their concept and idea of women based on whoever their mother is. So that's why I said I'm not blaming single mothers, but it has a lot to do with who their mothers are and what they grew up with.
And how they saw their mom treated by their dads.
Yes.
And sadly, like a lot of the guys in prison, their dads were in prison and they had no relationship with their dad. And unfortunately, they saw their dad not treating women well. So they're also saying women not being treated well from their horrible role model, but they didn't get any kind of, I don't know, positive role model, I guess. And even with the moms, even there was a lot of guys that were in gangs that turned to gangs because their moms were working more than one job and had more than one kid and didn't have, sadly, the time. And they turned to the gangs for family and then became abusive toward their moms. Big time abusive toward their moms. And their moms couldn't do anything back, because when your kid's in a gang and you do something back, you might become a target, even if you're mom, because these guys can be ASPD and psychopath, and so they don't care. They have no respect for their mom, even though their mom is, and again, not blaming single moms by any means or moms by any means, but their mom wasn't there to be nurturing because their mom was just trying to fucking put food on the table.
Yeah.
A lot of times.
Well, and I do want to say this too, because you brought up an excellent point. The number one thing that I saw that was most predominant with my daughter's father, because he and I knew each other as children. He was a few years older than me, but because of the dynamics and dysfunction in his family setting, because his father was an alcoholic and his mother was also kind of slightly an alcoholic, but also just not there. Like he literally came home one day and his mom and his sister were gone. His mom took his sister, but didn't take him with her, just abandoned him. It's actually quite sad. Like abandoned him, left him with his dad, took her sister, and she moved to a different state. But because of that dynamic, and because he started, like, he was desperately looking for a family, which is the case with a lot of men, and that's why they turn to gangs. Jody, you can and Heather, you can attest to this, especially in the judicial system, is that they'll turn to gangs and those gangs become their family because they come from such dysfunctional families. So even if they come from a loving home with a mother who is working 4 jobs and working day and night to meet ends meet and is doing everything she can to shower her child with love, it's the people that he's surrounding himself with, that he spends the most time with, who also come from these broken families, that are infiltrating their thought processes and their behavioral patterns and their ideals and concepts of women and family as a whole. That is what I personally saw in my life experience with my ex. And so there was a complete disregard and lack of respect for women in general.
My ex hates women, and his mother died when he was 16. And then like a year later, his grandparents who tried to raise him passed away. So he was on his own by the time he was 16, and he had already been in a shit ton of trouble with the law at that point because his dad was mostly in prison when he was growing up, and mom was an alcoholic, and that's what ultimately killed her. She was 36 years old, and she drank herself to death and left behind my ex and his sister, and they were still teenagers, and they just ran the streets. They would be put into group homes and they'd run away. I knew him back then, and he has always just had like a need for a mother figure, he has always had women around him, women that will take care of him and save him from being in trouble. There was a ex-girlfriend that he had, and her mom ended up kind of raising him for a while, and he like refers to her as his mom now. So he would like go like kind of latch on to women, but at the same time fucking hate them and have zero trust towards them. And so like, and that's his pattern with every woman in his life. And he just kind of latches on to one that'll reparent him in a sense, and then he will get sick of them, not trust them, think they're all cheating on him, get all paranoid, start abusing them, leave, and then go on to the next one. And that's been his pattern. And so yeah, there's definitely a mommy issue happening.
And you know what's really sad is when you really think about it, because men are supposedly the disciplinarians of the family, is like the stereotype. There used to be in the 70s a cartoon that was called Wait Till Your Father Gets Home, because he was the one that it was a comedy animated thing, but it was like, you know, wait till your father gets home for whatever trouble they have. And the mom's supposed to be the nurturing, loving, guiding one. So I think there's this hatred, but it's more of a hatred because you didn't do this for me. So it's also an envy and a resentment. It's mixed. It's a whirlwind of, you should have taken care of me. You didn't take care of me. I want you to take care of me. I hate you because you didn't take care of me. And that's toward now all women, because you were supposed to be the one that rescued and helped me, and you weren't able to do that. And so now I hate you because I love you. I hate you because you didn't love me the way that you were supposed to, that a mom is supposed to love in my mind or whatever. So it's sad because you're damned if you do and damned if you don't.
Perfect recipe for a very toxic relationship.
Yeah,
for sure.
yeah.
Mhm.
And a misogynist, like, you know, they don't want to listen to women, because not only they get to a point where it's like, I don't want to know that you're a good person. I don't want to know that you're a smart person. I don't want all of my ideas and beliefs and opinions to be shattered, because then that also means that I was wrong for all those years. So I want to hold on to this anger, because I'll be damned if it was for nothing.
Yeah. And I also know too that they also don't want, at least in my situation, he didn't want to like come to the realization that there was nothing he did wrong. He needed to feel like he caused it. He needed to feel like it was his fault. Like, because otherwise, if he came to the like pivotal, like realization that like my mom's just fucked up and I didn't deserve this, then he was left in a very vulnerable position of asking like, why did this happen to me? And so like he was always looking for a reason to feel like he was the problem. It was his fault that his mom left. It was his fault that the marriage ended. It was his fault. And so like he repeated that pattern in everything he did. Like I noticed that like for 16 years. Like it was always like, it has to be my fault. It has to be my fault. So I like, if the relationship's going to end, I will make sure that I am the reason that it ends. Because I can't be innocent. Like someone has to take the blame for this, and it'll be me. It'll be me. And then like I repeated that pattern after I left him, was like someone has to take accountability and responsibility for what's happened because he's running to Mexico. So like it'll be my fault. I'll be the one that, and then the cycle just continues.
But also it's a little bit of this displaced anger because I can't do anything about my mom anymore. I can't talk to her. I can't have a conversation about it. I can't yell at her. I can't be mad at her. So I'm going to put that anger onto me as well. So even if I know it's not my fault, kind of logically, I can't change anything. And I can't talk to her about it. So I'm going to be mad at her and mad at every other fucking woman because of that as well. So I'm going to take that anger, that blame, but I'm also going to put it on everybody else too, because I can't put it on the person because they're no longer here.
Yeah. And that's why, like, at least with like my ex, like almost gave the same way. My God. That's why, like, with my ex, like I noticed similar patterns between like what Jonah Hill did was they go and they utilize like things like therapy, and he would go and utilize things like, I know he has BPD and ASPD. I've mentioned that before, but he liked to go to like mental health places and be like, I'm going to hurt myself. I'm going to, I'm going to end my life. I'm going to unalive myself. And like, he would utilize those things as a form of manipulation and a tactic of control. And then he would take all the information he gathered in those spaces and then come and weaponize it against me. So this whole Jonah Hill thing was quite triggering for me, actually, but it was very, at the same time, it was very entertaining to watch. I will say that, because I was like, oh,
that makes so much sense that your ex would have those BPD going and saying, I'm going to harm myself, and then getting all this attention and then leaving with it. Because it's like, when you look at BPD and abandonment and issues and all of that, I'm going to leave you before you leave me. And then you think about his mom, and his mom abandoned him, and then taking the blame. And it makes so much sense. And that could be a whole other podcast because that's what you explained about your ex and what he just did, and going to places saying, I'm going to harm myself, and getting that information makes so much sense when you think about what BPD is and why they're doing it. And then since they're not getting, just like with NPD, they're not getting that love that they thought they would because it's from childhood. BPD is not getting, again, it's not mom. So fuck you. You're going to leave too, because it's not the person that abandoned them in the first place coming back. So they keep trying to get that, and it's not serving their needs. And so they're going to abandon me as well. It's really fascinating. So that's
we could totally have a whole podcast on attachment stuff and
yes.
And
I have a whole PowerPoint on that.
I was gonna say, that's your thing, isn't it? Attachment
stuff. We should do that soon. I would love to talk about attachment styles and then also a blend of BPD, cluster Bs. That would be epic. Let's do that.
And real quick, misogynistic men, tell me if I'm wrong, please leave it in the comments, whatever. They have cluster B traits. I'm not saying that they are cluster B, but they have narcissistic traits and tendencies, or histrionic traits and tendencies, or BPD, traits and tendencies, or ASPD, traits and tendencies. Misogynistic men are toxic, and there's usually cluster B traits in there.
Absolutely. I mean, you have to have some cluster B if you have that lack of empathy for the opposite sex, just zero empathy. That right there meets one of the criteria for 3 of the fucking disorders. So.
So we have, you guys, future podcasts that you gotta listen to. So on that note, like, subscribe, click the little bell up in the corner on YouTube, because that will tell you every time we drop an episode, which is every week or 2, depending on. We are going to be doing a special podcast real soon from Colorado. I'm excited about that. We're going to have a guest, and we're road tripping to Colorado in a couple weeks. So that's actually in 2 weeks.
Oh my God, I can't wait.
2 weeks. So, and everything's set. We got the hotel, we got the rental car, we're ready to go. So we will be there with our guest. And so like, follow, subscribe, comments. We appreciate, we're going to be doing a podcast probably on all the comments that we've been getting, some of the really interesting ones. If you got wine suggestions, glass suggestions, topic suggestions, any suggestions, nice. I was gonna say any suggestions, but nicer ones, please. But what have you. And also we should do a little shout out. Thank you, Sweden. Because we are number 66 in mental health podcasts on Apple in Sweden.
I want to go there.
Yeah. Maybe you can road trip there
My
soon.
people.
Yeah. So any last?
Nope.
I love you, bitches. I love you.
I love you too.
Thank you guys so much, and we'll see you soon.